Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shilanski in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, and this is the fourth segment in a four-part series in which we've been talking about family offices. And not a family office that runs a small cluster of families as their clients, but instead family firms where you have multi-generations all working in the same financial advisory practice. In our first episode, we set the stage about talking about the mindset and whether or not it's easier for financial advisors who are a second or third generational financial planner to enter into a practice and take it over from the founder. After the episode of Floyd Shilanski aired, we had an overwhelming number of members of the TPR Nation like yourself reach out to us and say, yes, I am in this situation right now, where I am, whether related or unrelated, I'm a financial advisor who is working with a senior financial advisor that was supposed to transition out of financial advisory services, and I was supposed to take over the entire book of business. But it's not happening along the timeline that her and I originally discussed. And if you listen to that episode with Floyd, and we started talking about this with him and I as we work collectively together, was that at the age of 70, Floyd was going to take a position as a chairman emeritus, and he was going to transition his entire book of business, and so that him and my mom could go travel more. And Floyd said, hold on, Jamie, that's not as I recalled it. And in that episode, Floyd said, I never said I was going to stop meeting with my clients. I never said I was going to transition some of this income. And so you got to see right there between the two of us a really natural area of conflict where one person has the details of a transition differently than the other person. And that's real life, right? I mean, when we're sitting here at the Perfect RIA, this is all cards on the table, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, as we all work through it together in a pursuit of perfection. Now, in our case, it's really an okay thing because I don't begrudge my dad not transitioning his entire book or staying in the financial advisory practice. I want him to stay a financial advisor as long as he has the passion for it and the cognitive ability to keep helping clients. I dread the day he is no longer delivering massive value and really impacting the lives of our clients. In our office at Shilanski & Associates, and that's our registered investment advisory firm, we use the Google platform, as many of you probably also do. If you're in Teams, you could do the same thing. We have chat and spaces. That's our internal dialogue for only members of our organization. And there are about 15 of us in the organization. And one of the spaces that I've created, which is a chat room, is called Successes and Team Wins. And so anytime we have a super positive interaction with a client, no matter who it is in our organization, we throw it inside this chat so the entire team can experience that win together. And you as a financial advisor or a leader of an organization, if you're a team member listening to this podcast and you're wanting to look at ways that you can really deliver impact and show the people that you work with all the value that you're providing as an organization, this was tremendous for us because oftentimes when we as financial advisors talk to our clients, they are saying, hey, I really want to say thank you to so-and-so, or I really got kind of, irritated on the phone because I couldn't get my employer to do X, Y, and Z. And so-and-so was so patient. They were so kind. They worked with me through the whole thing. You guys went above and beyond. And instead of just telling that client, oh, you're welcome, or oh, that's why we're here, or oh, our greatest goal is to provide concierge service, or even teeing them up for a referral at that moment, instead, what we do is we take that comment, we take whatever the client said or the gift basket basket that they dropped off, whatever that token is. At Shilanski & Associates, a lot of clients bring us in baked goods, things from their greenhouse, celebratory items. My dad, first week of surge, ended up getting a bottle of 43 from a client, which was fantastic, right? And of course, that goes on our gift log. It had not been the first appointment of the day, it would have gone in my glass, is what it would have happened. But we take those wins, we take those moments of celebration, and we throw it in the team space so that everyone in our organization can see and feel the impact that we are making. That is a great low IQ, simple action for you guys to take now. Your team is going to be there to see you through the hardest times of a client's life, but there are so many celebrations in between those periods. Make sure you're coming together as an organization and taking the wins when there are wins to be had. Okay, let's dive into some of these questions. So one question I got from a financial advisor was, Jamie, when you go into the meetings, do both you and Floyd go, or do just one of you, since Floyd is that senior? For about 99% of our clients, Floyd and I work in tandem. So even when I network and I talk to other people and they're looking to just hire me, I bring Floyd in. We work cohesively together on all clients. My father and I have really great, I call them arguments because they're for the advancement and discussion of ideas. They're not fights. They're not disagreements. It's a genuine argument. We love to take two camps and really battle things out, give different perspectives, and also tear ideas apart. We work a lot with small businesses, and small businesses, that's an entire family's livelihood. And so we want to make sure that we're coming at ideas from all different angles. And one of the questions we often ask ourselves, especially when we're working with small business clients, is how does this fail? And this has been a really powerful question, especially when I go into organizations and I'm employee facing with the leadership panel. We're introducing new concept, new ideas, new marketing designs, new processes, whatever it is that's an introduction to something, is that most people do not adapt and embrace change. In fact, most employees are very resistant to change. So anytime we bring together a new idea, we will put it on the whiteboard, we'll put it on a giant 3M, and we'll say, okay, here's all the pros, here's all the cons. What am I not thinking about? Let's make this a collective discussion. And it's great because I'm not omnipotent. I'm not going to think of every single angle, and I'm not going to have every single experience that every employee in an organization has. And so they can provide really helpful feedback, and we can start troubleshooting and problem solving and designing things. And then at the very end, once we've all come to a collective decision on how something should be done or implemented, I will turn to the entire group and I will ask them, how does this fail? And then we will identify all the ways it fails. And a lot of times, the number one reason something fails is because others won't adapt or embrace the new idea. And do you see the power behind that question? So if I ask you, how does this fail? And the most common response I get is that someone in the organization doesn't adapt to the new idea, doesn't embrace the new idea, doesn't use the new idea, product, good, or service, then this whole thing falls apart. And when you're working with large organizations, that person who is most likely to not embrace, not adapt, not change, does not want to simultaneously be identified as the reason that the endeavor failed. So now I've changed that person who was most likely to say no and have them now saying go, right? They're going to go towards that idea. They're going to go towards that product or service because they don't want to single-handedly be responsible for failure. So I love Floyd joining me in those conversations because we have really constructive dialogue. And what we tell the clients is, because when him and I are bouncing ideas off of each other, we bring them into that fold and we say, hey, listen, you've got two incredible financial advisors here. We both have different areas of expertise and we're going to get to the same conclusion, but our job is to advocate for you. So if I'm not thinking of something and Floyd is, I want him to say it, and vice versa. And the client says, no, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And of course, in when it comes to one of the questions I got was, who does the client know to contact, you or Floyd? We have a clients@shilanski.com email address. So hopefully most clients are not contacting either of us individually. One thing that we did a few years ago was we implemented implemented email delegation. Micah was the first in our organization to do this on a dare, and it was really powerful for him because he's not great at email. He doesn't like it. He is an audio visual learner, and so he really likes to stay out of written communications and talk to people instead. And so that worked really well for him. Right on his cuffs, I implemented email delegation because I wanted to use more time blocking and more effective deep focus hours. And sometimes for most of us, we're really guilty of using our email inbox as our to-do list. And so our day becomes retroactive instead of proactive. Now, in order for us to do this as an organization, we had to create a way that clients could reach out to financial advisors. So we have it go to clients@shilanski.com. That goes into what we refer to as a desk. Micah and I created our own Infinity CRM for our financial planning firm. And that desk opens up a ticket. And we've all experienced this when we emailed a support system before. And you might not always have the same person responding to you, but the same people all see that ticket. And then the people on our team are assigned those tickets, which are emails, and they decide who in the organization is best to see that information. And then, of course, everything we do, every keystroke we make, every conversation that we have goes into our CRM Infinity. And one of our mottos is we take this from the medical practice of industry, and we say, if it's not documented, it is not done. If it is not documented, it is not done. And so if we don't have documentation of something, it never happened. So everything goes into the CRM and everyone in the organization can see it. Follow-up question that I got from that from a multi-enterprise office who had asked us this back when we were talking about email delegation on a prior podcast was, I work with several different financial advisors and I'm not really sure that I want everyone in the organization seeing my clients' emails and so forth. We have different pods, different teams. Well, inside of Infinity, we set up different territories so we can be really selective who gets those tickets assigned and who doesn't based on those work groups. And our organization, we don't do that. We have 5 financial advisors. We've done that in the 90s and early 2000s as we had different pods of employees for each financial advisor. That model did not work for our organization because it created a divide. Instead of seeing all clients as the firm's clients, it created as, well, these are Micah's clients, these are Jamie's clients, these are Floyd's clients, these are John's clients, these are Christian's clients, and we didn't want that as an organization to continue. Every client is a Shilanski & Associates client. Therefore, every client gets the same piece of information, whether it's a value add, it's a Christmas gift, it's a birthday, it's a referral. Everyone is treated the same. They are all firm clients. All right, the next question I got was, Jamie, how do you and Floyd split commissions and revenue? Why are you going to start sharing some of yours with me? I just tease. Listen, this is a really important conversation, right? Because a lot of times when quote unquote juniors enter into a book of business with a quote unquote senior, there's no transition timeline of when the junior will have that book of business transition fully in their name. And there's also no clear path of how that junior's revenue is going to increase over time. And one of the things I want to remind you of is that oftentimes when a quote unquote junior takes over a senior's practice and starts getting clients transitioned to them, what that senior is looking to do is to take the bottom book of their business and transition it over to the junior to start working on. Of course, why would the senior give you their top clients? That makes no sense. Now, in our firm, this is not a bad thing because we're very selective of who we work with. So we really don't have, I know a lot of financial advisors out there still take a Bill Good queue and they use the A, B, C, D way of ranking their clients, where the A client is the absolute best, 100% time follows advice, B client 80%, and then it categorizes down. If you have a D client, D is in Delta, you're supposed to fire or graduate them. A beautiful part of our practice is that we only have A, B clients. We really don't have a bottom end of our book because we're pretty selective about who we work with. In our RIA, Shilanski & Associates, we have 2 ways that we are paid. We do charge a financial planning fee, and we also charge an asset under management fee for the management of money. And this is the area you want to be really particular about. You want to make sure that you have a really good employment agreement between the two people, the person giving the book of business, the person receiving that book of business, that talks about dates, timelines, objectives, the way that your compensation increases or decreases, so both parties are prepared. One of the things that I like to do when I buy a book of business is that I give annual updates and say, hey, just like an amortization schedule, right? And says, here's where we're at. Here's how long we have left to go on our agreement here. And this is, of course, when the payment ends if I'm buying a book of business. So regardless of your relationship, whether you're a family member or a friend or really good, it's a mentor and mentee relationship, you need to have all of this spelled out. You need to have agreements in place that have schedules, timelines, compensation, revenue, etc. And if you're that junior and you're expecting your revenue to increase, then you also have to show what you're going to be doing for that revenue to increase. You need to show that senior how you're taking over, doing the financial planning, doing the monitoring, doing the changes, and really developing that relationship so they don't feel that you're just getting handed something that you're not doing work for. If you're a member of the Perfect RA, this is a great opportunity to jump into the member forum and ask about membership agreements between employees and partner up with somebody that has done this before and is at the level. If you're a senior looking into bringing on other juniors, go talk to somebody else who is at the career stage that you are at. Not an age stage, a career stage. Talk to somebody, align yourself that has had a proven track record of success to get you where you want to go. If you're a Backstage Pass member, that means you're going to jump into the forum, ask the question, figure out who's like that, and then schedule a couple of courtesy phone calls. You'd be amazed at how many financial advisors are willing to help and share others inside of this TPR community, because that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to break the barriers where financial advisors constantly keep their cards close to their chest and make you stumble to find out how to be successful. Instead, we're laying it down on the table and say, listen, I've got no expertise in this area. I've never done it before. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Who has done this that can guide me towards that success? Our Backstage Pass member forum is for do-it-yourselfers. These are people that want to see what has to be done and go do it themselves. If you are an Invictus member, Invictus is our hands-on coaching where we teach you how to 4x your practice while also problem-solving pain points. Then make sure you're talking to your coach about this and say, listen, this is what my 2 to 3 year plan is. This is what I would like to do. I'm either buying a book of business, I am transitioning a book of business, I've got to bring on another financial advisor, I've got to fire a financial advisor. Whatever that dynamic is, talk to your coach and make sure they're aligning you with somebody that has had this experience and expertise so they can get you where you want to go. Really, really important. The Perfect RA is 100% about this pursuit of perfection, and we have to come together as a financial advisor community and stop trying to sabotage other people's success because you don't have it yourself. Don't make up all the reasons why this person was successful and you aren't. Just go learn. Go figure out why they're successful. Go replicate what works for your practice. Do what works. All right, the next question I got is from a daughter who's in a multi-generational practice and saying that she's having a really hard time getting the founders, her parents, on board with making a lot of the changes that she wants to implement, such as surge, fee increases, and delivering value adds that we provide at the Perfect RIA. Her question is that even though she's an adult, she feels that her parents are very resistant because she is the child and they've been successfully running this practice for a really long time. And so she's asking, should she bring in a coach to help moderate this conversation? All right, at Shilanski & Associates, we have only brought in a coach one time, and it was hands down the second worst day of my life. During that consultation with the coach did all this analysis, business planning, all this homework was done ahead of time. Part of that experience was doing a bunch of behavioral profile, career objectives, talking with each one of the 4 board members one-on-one, and then taking everyone's goals collectively, and at the end of the day, making recommendations. His recommendation was to move me to CEO of the company And it was horrendous. Half the family was proud, was super impressed, said, great, you've done such a wonderful job. Please move forward. The other half of the family was like, who the hell is this guy to come in and make a one-time assessment about who should be CEO of the organization and not? And it created a huge family strife. One I don't even really like to talk about today because it hurts so badly. And it created incredible rift between someone I love very much and I, to the point where I don't even like to talk work with this individual anymore because I know that they're just going to see everything I say and do as a threat. So my advice here would be to proceed with caution. Be very selective. Make sure that person who's coming in to help coach is not actually making recommendations to change anything, is just helping facilitate conversation. If I was asked if I would ever do that again, I would say a resounding no. Didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it doesn't work for everyone. Again, another opportunity to talk to other financial advisors in the TPR community who may have had success in that area. What I can tell you is that we do have a successful format for running our family meetings now. And one thing that I got from a client we haven't implemented yet, but I'm going to put on our agenda for next year, is I have a client that has a very large multi-million-dollar company that has over 1,000 employees and was created by her father. She's second generation, and there's third generation kids coming up and running it. And in this organization, what the father did was he created the family board. So they have the family board and then they have the business board. And the family board has to come together and make decisions on the family units. This is an interesting concept to apply a business format. And they make all decisions like when we're going to have reunions, what the themes are going to be, who's going to host holidays, what charities are going to be given to. And each family unit represents a branch of the family tree, and they assign delegates to go forward to these family meetings and make decisions. That's a much larger scale of things. That's when you have 1,000 employees and 50 family members that are some in the business, some not in the business, but they're all shareholders of that. So maybe if that's your scale, you could certainly implement something like that. I was thinking it might be a good idea to kind of do in our own family to make sure that we're always coming back and connecting about holidays and birthdays and charities and being really intentional with the time that we have together and not dumping it on one person in the family to be the one that keeps it all together and keeps it going. So might do something like that on a much smaller scale. On the business side of things, I will tell you what we used to do, which is like taking a nail and driving it through my eyeball. Every month of January in Alaska, we live in the Arctic, so it is very, very cold. So most of affluent Alaska travels to Maui, and we take up residence in Maui for the entire month. Now, when we used to do this Maui trip, what my parents would do was that we would get together in one of our hotel rooms during that vacation, and we would spend the entire day in the hotel room doing business planning. Now, for my parents who had grown kids, this didn't cause any difficulties for them. But for my brother and I, who had spouses on the trip and very small children at the time, it was super difficult for our spouses. They kind of got intolerable to it around 2:00. That's when you start getting messages. Are you done? Are you still meeting? What more do you have to possibly talk about? We're together all the time. How is it going this long? Etc. And so then it became, really difficult to manage being away on quote unquote family vacations and carving out business time to have these meetings. So we did that for about a decade. We repeated that recipe of disaster over and over and over again until we learned our lesson and our kids were grown. We decided to do something different. So now we have quarterly leadership meetings, and in those quarterly leadership meetings, we do a running agenda, and that running agenda we keep inside of Google Docs. And the reason we do a running agenda is so that what a running agenda is it chronologically stacks meetings on top of each other. So we have a table of contents. We can go back to the last leadership meeting and we can click on it and we capture what decisions were made during that meeting. This also becomes part of our meeting minutes for our corporate entities. So making sure we're keeping up on that every single quarter. At those leadership meetings, we make a lot of decisions. We talk about value adds. We talk about the objectives of the company, the 3, the 5, the 10-year goals, and so forth. Now, what I have discovered is that a lot of times during those leadership meetings, we will go back and we'll talk to our leads, but our entire team isn't always privy to that information. And so what I would like to do differently next year is that we are going to create an internal wiki. A wiki is an area where you go and get information, quick and easy access. A lot of times these are frequently asked questions. And on the dashboard of that wiki for every single employee, I want them to see our surge schedule because those dates are done a year or 2 years in advance. And then I also want them to see what value adds that we're going to be running during each surge so that it's not a surprise when that surge arrives. Now, will our company hire coaches and bring people in to talk to our organization? 100%. Yes, absolutely. In fact, for all of our employees, we have professional development bonuses that we give out each year. They can use that in a plethora of different ways. They can go to conferences, they can take online classes, they can use it for Audible memberships. Whatever is going to make them better is what I want them to use that allowance for. And as part of that, we will go out and scout different coaches. In fact, Floyd found a great coach that at our company retreat prior to our big spring surge. And spring surge is always our biggest one, not because of length, but because of quantity of information that our office will receive because it's tax time. Now, last year was a lot easier on our team to go through spring surge because we hired and started moving clients over to retirement tax services. If you have not heard or enrolled in retirement tax services, go to their website today and transform how much value you deliver to clients with tax planning. We did retirement tax services because we found that, especially during the pandemic, after 2020, there were a lot of CPAs that hung up their shingles and retired entirely, or they stopped taking individual clients. And instead, they're just focusing on larger business returns, which is not every single client that you work with. So we found retirement tax services, and Stephen Jarvis, who's the lead CPA over there, he works with financial advisors. He doesn't advertise to the public. In order to hire him, you have to have a financial advisor in place. And what I love about that this is turning into a commercial for Stephen Jarvis. That's how much I believe in this. Go to retirementtaxservices.com and enroll. If you take no other advice from this podcast, take that piece of information. You will deliver so much tax value to your clients. If you are like me and taxes is something that you can kind of hold your own on, but it's not an area that you love to geek out on, then this will radically change your practice. It worked so well last year for the clients that we moved over that this year I went to my relationship management team and I said, give me a whole list of everyone that's not in retirement tax services. Tell me what their current fees are. I'm bumping up my fees next year and I want to push everyone that I possibly can over to retirement tax services. No more calling clients and telling them that I think they did their TurboTax wrong. So yes, spring surge is our biggest surge because we are going out to all of our clients and getting all of our tax information. As I mentioned with retirement tax services, this has become easier because now we have access to a portal and we're instantaneously seeing where the client is at with their taxes, and both the CPA and our office are getting the same information at the same time. Still a big surge because we have to take all of that information and we input it into our CRM called Infinity. And so spring is a really big time. Right before spring, because I know that, we have a company retreat. And we started doing this, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, and it is smashing. It has become one of our most cherished and favorite times as an organization. We go to Alyeska, which is a big ski resort here in Alaska, located in Girdwood, Alaska. And we take the entire team, their families, and we spend 3 days before surge and we just play. On one of those days, we'll have like a half-day session where we come together as a team. It's a rah-rah session. We'll go over objectives, hear anyone's concerns, and really get everyone kind of pumped up. This year, Floyd wants to bring in a coach that he met to do that same thing. So this is the first year we'll bring in a coach to the retreat. One of the things that I had to really argue with Floyd about was he said, okay, well, we're going to be there for 3 days. So we'll have this coach that does a 2-day program. They'll come in. And I said, whoa, pause. And he said, what? And I said, what are the hours? Here he goes, goes, well, just have them do 8 to 4, then the team can go play after. Now, given the choice between play and work, Floyd Shilanski will always choose work, right? Always. And he's like, especially if I'm paying my team member, it's not their vacation time, plus I'm paying for the hotel and all the skiing and all the food, then we're going to do something productive, especially because Floyd doesn't ski, right? I said, nope, we're not good. We can't do that. We cannot do that. We cannot take away this play time, because in play, there's great connection with one another, right? We get to laugh and be silly and have snowball fights and watch somebody have a yard sale where they plow on the mountain and just lose their skis, lose their mittens, lose their hats. And we get to have a good time at everyone's expense. And that's important too, right? What we do is so serious that we got to have time to play with one another and really enjoy being around each other. So this is the first year we'll bring in an outsider coach to talk to our entire team during a retreat. Normally when we bring in a coach or someone on business development to help us perfect some type of skill, we'll do this outside of the office. The reason why we choose outside the office, even though we have 2,000 square feet and lots of space to do it inside our office, is because it breaks our train of thought. When we are in the office, we're going to be distracted by all the things we have to do for clients. When we're outside of the office, we're giving ourselves permission not to check emails, not to answer phones, not to answer door, not to do something just real quick. So that running agenda for those leadership meetings has been really powerful, because now we have an opportunity to go back to the document and say, hold on a second, this is what we agreed on. Or if we're not sure what we set up as our rocks, as our milestones, as what we wanted to do, we can revisit those and say, hold on, we just crushed those out this year, last year. This is so important. So I know that's a really long-winded answer about whether or not you should bring a third party in. If you ask me, I would say again, no, but that doesn't mean other people haven't had success doing so. All right, the next question I got was, how do we tell clients about the transition, or explain, how Floyd had been meeting with clients for 30 years by himself, and then I enter into the picture. So, we did not do this 100% smoothly, or as smooth as if I was giving advice, I would look back and tell them to do. My first piece of advice when it comes to doing this transition is to make sure you're telling clients why this junior is in the room, and also setting good expectations that about the timeline that you will be in the room working with them. So a lot of the language that we use is, Mr. and Mrs. Client. As you know, Shilanski and Associates exists in more than just myself. We have an entire organization and team that's here to help you. In our meetings, Floyd will say, I love working with my clients. It's what gets me out of bed every single morning. And I'm going to continue to do that till the good Lord sees fit to take me away. But until that time, I want you to know that if something were to ever happen to me, that Jamie is here. She's been working in tandem with me for years behind the scenes. You're already familiar with her. And if something were to happen to me, or if I'm out of town and unavailable, you can always reach out, and you have somebody working on your financial plan to make sure that you are being taken care of. And remember, this isn't a selfish comment, but clients want to know why it matters to them, not why it matters to you. Why does it matter to them? What impact on them is this going to have? So make sure you're having that conversation right off the get-go with clients. Now, when we did this, Floyd and I had around 250 clients. We got that down to 215. And then now we're really close to about 150 households that we're currently working with. So when we did all of this transitioning, we only had one person in that relationship come back and say, no, thanks. I don't want to work with Jamie. I'll work with your son. I prefer to talk to a man about these financial matters. Now, when that happened, Floyd didn't say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Absolutely not. What an incredible comment. And I didn't sit there and go, oh my gosh, that's so sexist. I can't believe you would make that about me. I don't care. If you don't like me or don't want to work with me, that's okay. Not everyone Floyd worked with is going to need or want to work with me later in life. That is an okay thing to have. So as a financial advisor looking at a book of business, you need to factor in attrition. Either people are going to die, they're going to get divorced, they're going to stop using your services. You might not like them, or they may not like you. If I had a warning label instead of a name tag, it would probably say not suitable for all audiences. And that is 100% okay. I don't know where we all got swept into this fairy tale world that everybody has to like everyone else all of the time and accept everyone all of the time. But there's almost 8 billion people on the planet. You don't have to like everyone, and not everyone has to like me in return. So when that time comes and they want to work with Micah because he's a man, or not me because I'm a woman, I'm not going to cry about it. Instead, I'm going to look and say, great, now I have one more slot for an ideal client. Or as my girlfriends and I say to each other, don't be a sissy la-la. If somebody wants to talk finances with a man because they're a man and that's who they relate to, that is their preference and their right to do so. If somebody wants to talk to me as a female about their finances and they feel comfortable doing so, then that is their right to do so. And guess what? When I book a massage, I prefer to do so with a female. It has nothing to do against men. I think there are great masseurs out there that are men that provide wonderful massages. I just don't prefer that. And that gets to be my choice without offending every male masseur on the planet. So in turn, do I think it's a sexist comment that somebody doesn't want to work with me because I'm a female? No, I think it's a preference comment. I don't care. If you relate more to the person who's giving you financial advice, then you are going to follow that advice more so than if you don't like, are resistant, and can't relate to the person providing you that advice. So you get to have choices as a client, and not all clients may choose you as a junior coming up. So when you're factoring this in your book of acquisitions, you need to put a margin of acquisition inside of there. When my father passes, God forbid, and I hope it's 30 years from today, but when that happens, there will be a loss of clients because he has earned a 30 to 40 year relationship working with some people that no matter how much value I provide may not fit them, may not suit them. And that gets to be okay. So talk to your clients, make sure they understand who that other person in the room is. If you are entering the room for the first time, you can't just be a note taker. You can't sit there silent or they're going to wonder why you're there. So one of the good strategies that we implement with any new advisor that we bring on in financial planning is that we start bringing them into the conversation. We explain to the clients why that person is there. And then we start giving them areas of expertise that senior turns to the junior, even though the senior might already have the answers, right? And we start building up their credibility. And so one of the foundations that we lead with is estate planning, as you know, when we build out our financial plan. So I might set the foundation that we're going to talk about estate planning, and then I might hand the baton over to that junior advisor in my conference room and allow them to offer expertise and ask questions. Now, this is really important to understand body language and to make sure whoever you're bringing in that conference room with you, that you guys know each other's signals and cues and how and who answers what and how they answer it. Because it is the senior's responsibility to make sure the junior does not fall on their face in a client meeting. And it is the junior's responsibility to never, ever correct the senior in a client meeting unless there's been some big area of egregious behavior, right? You don't correct in front of clients. This is a dance. This is a perfected dance. And you got to make sure you know the tango before you go into that conference room. All right, we have dozens of other questions, and I would love to spend all day long addressing those. But I am sure that you have a lot of other content that it's time to get listening to. So TPR Nation, if you have questions like this or anything else that involves your practice and you want to learn from people that are in the pursuit of perfection, then email us at lifestyle@theperfectira.com. And as you know, this is 100% about actionable advice. So let's make sure that one, when we are setting up agreements for transitioning a book of business, that you have them written down and both parties agree to. If you are the person buying that book of business, then you should put a self-imposed responsibility responsibility to remind the senior of where you're at in that transition, whether it's compensation or timeline or things that you've had to do or learn or earn in order to get that book of business. Make sure you're showing that senior where you're at, so that way you don't get stuck treading water. Leadership meetings. I can't give you advice of whether or not you should bring in a coach. It blew up in my face. It may not in yours. Jump inside the member forum at theperfectra.com. Please reach out to other people that have done this and see what their intake is. Get a full rounded perspective, so that way you're set up for success before you go into that conversation. And no matter what, whether you bring in a coach or not, make sure that you as an organization have a running agenda, have a leadership board, and make sure your entire team knows what you're planning and when you're planning. That doesn't mean they're in the weeds and going over the finances and everything about the organization, but it does mean that they get to know when surges are and what value adds you're going to be ordering. And then also what you're going to deliver over the next couple of years and what your growth goals are. People love to be part of a growth experience. Really, really important. And then third action item, if you are going to start joining someone in a conference room, make sure you have a dialogue and are set up for success before you meet with that client. Okay, TPR Nation, this is Jamie Shilanski in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, where I hoped I provided you with some valuable insights, some things to think about of how you can really look at your family firm comprehensively. I shared with you a lot of my thoughts, opinions, and experiences of what I've been through. And if I offended you in any of that content, then guess what? Tomorrow morning, you will not wake up with leprosy. You can just move on from the offensive comment. But if this is powerful content, is this the type of content that financial advisors should be willing to share with one another, then make sure that you're giving this podcast and every podcast the Perfect RIA produces 5 stars. It really, really helps us reach more and more financial advisors so we can deliver massive value, spend more time outside the office with the people we say we're doing this for, and also be highly profitable. Money is an exchange of value, and there's a real opportunity for us as financial advisors to go and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The Perfect RIA, the Perfect RIA.